Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Health Movement Podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about mindset and the importance of using it when you're trying to succeed, not only in health and fitness, but also in all aspects of your life. I'm Derek. I'm an A-certified personal trainer.
Hey, Sam, I'm a certified athletic trainer.
And we're just going to dive right into it. But beforehand, just a quick disclaimer, we're not doctors. So before you start any programs or anything like that, make sure you check with your doctor to make sure you are good to go. All right, so mindset. Exactly what it is, I think, is how you view anything. If it's a positive mindset, negative mindset, everybody hears about, self-talk and those sort of things. But like we talked about in the first episode, when we were looking at the state of health in America, we needed to know where we are in order to make improvements and changes about where we want to go. So I think a huge thing with mindset, and probably the first thing you need to look at, is some self-awareness and where you are, physically, emotionally, mentally, whatever it happens to be. You have to be willing to take a good look at yourself and an honest look at yourself. And it's not easy, but you're not going to make any improvements or changes unless you actually know what changes need to be made.
Yeah, and I think going off of what you said, it's a general outlook, right? And I think the other piece is it's a lot like what some of the things that we've talked about before, nutrition or hydration, or it's a fluid thing that can change, right? Your mindset can change and evolve, and it also takes effort to try to do that, right? It takes a significant amount of effort to change your mindset, right? I think the big thing that you saw, you kind of touched on a little bit, or you talk about like having an awareness of something needs to change, right? And you don't know what you don't know, and if you don't recognize that, that's a big step too, right? I think that's a big
And I think
area.
when those changes come, people look at it like, oh, there's something wrong with me. And that can't be really the mindset either. There may be things you want to change or improve on, and you might, do things that aren't right, but you need to recognize what those things are. And instead of, harping on the issue, like, oh, I know I always eat terrible, like I'm awful at this, and that's your mindset. It's got to shift gears where you're thinking like, all right, I know I'm not taking care of myself the way I need to, but I can change that. Like, seeing the future in terms of the changes you can make has to happen. And I think that's where the self-reflection comes from, or goes to the changes that you need to make. But I think the hardest part about this is being honest with yourself about where you actually are. And a lot of people will make excuses or blame somebody else, or think like, oh, they're just lucky because, they have good genetics, so they're in that shape, or something like that. I was talking to a couple friends last night, and one of the guys was telling me he used to be 270 pounds, and now he's 165. He's in great shape. And, that's impressive. And one of the other guys is like, oh, you're lucky. I'm like, that's not luck. Like, that's a lot of hard work and a lot of, understanding where you are. And I was telling him, like, what was the change? Like, what caused that change? And he goes, I was pissed off. Like, I was sick of feeling awful all the time and having sore knees and all these aches and pains. And he's like, to be honest, I needed to get to a point where I was really upset and just sick of it. But he wouldn't have gotten there if he wasn't willing to take a good, honest look at himself. And that's not easy to do, but it's necessary.
Yeah, it's taking a good, hard, objective look at yourself in the mirror and saying, all right, well, what do I need to do to get where I want to be, right? And or where do I want to be? And identifying that, right? Like it's I think that's the other piece, is like it's it's not only taking the action, but it's also identifying what that action is, right? And I think that's a big piece of this, right? And you put in our show prep, you put in, if you don't know who you are, you can't change who you are, right? I think that's a big thing, right? And we've talked a little bit about like um the motivating factors, or the motivational interviewing type of stuff, right? The pre-contemplative stage
Yeah. Oh,
of
absolutely.
change, right? And if they're in that pre-contemplative stage, they're not even they're gonna think that the cons outweigh the pros to make that
Can
change,
you
right? So
quickly just explain what that pre-contemplative stage is?
there's different stages, right? So there's of trying to coach through or help someone make a change, right? So the it'd be pre-contemplative, contemplative, and then you kind of go into like a action and then maintenance phase, right? So these are all your kind of phases of how
A
it
progression
was
from somebody who isn't even
yeah.
close to making a change to going to a huge thing. Well, I'll see if I can pull something up on that. Yeah, hold on.
Yeah. Motivational interviewing. You can look it up. It's used a lot in the health and healthcare, fitness world, the wellness world, to really try to make some lasting change with people, that especially lifestyle change. Like you talk about, um, like a lot of the stuff we've talked about to this point, trying to make changes in your diet, make changes in your day to day routine. Right? Yeah, that's it
Yeah.
right there.
Those of you, just to let you guys know, we figured out how to use some of the software. So if you're watching on YouTube or anything, we're able to put up some screens and other things that'll help you out with what we're talking about. But yeah, this is what it is.
We're we're figuring it out, folks. We're learning as we go here.
Yeah, we're new to
It's
this.
it's a very grassroots effort here.
But yeah,
But yeah,
that's it. And
so
you can
and I think
see the pre-contemplative stage isn't even in that wheel there. You've got to get past that in order to make any of those changes to behavior.
yeah,
Um,
and that's the kind of stuff, right? Is identifying things, and that's if you're somebody that's in that pre-contemplative stage, like you don't even realize that you have to make that change, right? So that is part of a huge part of that pie of just being the awareness factor is huge, you know.
yeah, and a big thing is like, how do you get past that pre-contemplative stage where you are willing or able? It's not something, willing probably isn't the right word, but we all get stuck in a certain mindset in a certain way. We don't even realize it half the time. So how do we be reflective? And there, I mean, a couple different ways, and you got to figure out what works for you. Some people like to journal at the end of the day and write down their thoughts and try and think through things that way. Meditation. Some people even like an open conversation with a loved one, somebody that you're close to, and you feel, you have that safe relationship where you can talk about things that aren't just surface level, and you have a conversation. If you're like, listen, I feel like I need to make some changes. Can you help me out here and talk through this? There's so many people that will help you with that. I mean, just think of all the people out there that if they asked you that question, like that's almost actually it is a flattering thing to have somebody feel that comfortable and that safe with you to approach you and say like, hey, listen, I want to make some changes. Can you help me talk through this? I'm a little stuck. Of course you're going to say yes if it's somebody you care about. And I think you feel incredibly flattered. Um, but yeah, so I'm going to stop sharing this. I'm not going to lie. I'm pretty proud of myself for popping it up there. So if you're not watching on YouTube, you are missing out. We do have on our website, healthmovement.us, have links to all the videos and everything like that. So if you need to find us, you can get everything there. If you have questions you want submitted on the show, there's a questions tab. If you need help with coaching or anything like that, if you want to talk through any changes that you want to make, there's a coaching tab there. You just fill it out and find a time to sit down and have a conversation, see how we can help. But that shameless plug aside, I'm going to stop sharing that screen there. And I think once you have that self-awareness down, you really want to think about your mindset, which we touched on a little bit, but we didn't actually put the terms to them. And with looking at fixed mindset versus growth mindset, and a lot of times that fixed mindset, and I'm going to do it again, Timmy. I'm going to share another screen here. I'm probably going to go overboard today. But
Okay.
it's there we go. Fixed mindset, growth mindset. And the fixed mindset is like, this is the way things are and it doesn't change. Like, I'm this level reader, or I'm this level athlete, or I can run a 4.5 in the 40, and that's all I'm going to do. And the growth mindset is, all right, I know this is where I am, but I want to get here. These are the things I know I have to do to get there. So having that growth mindset as opposed to a fixed mindset is huge in terms of any changes you want.
Yeah, and it's really is like the growth mindset is knowing or having an outlook where through actual steps and hard work, I can achieve these, whatever your certain goal is. And I think that's a big piece in this too, is the goal setting piece, I think is a big aspect to the growth mindset, and being able to have a vision and be able to see like, and again, I think there are different types of goals, right? There's uh larger scale goal that you break down in, put in, I have 4 of these sub-level goals that'll get me to this higher level goal. If I have achieved, if I work on these smaller individual goals, I will, in the process, achieve my larger overarching goal, right? So I think that's a big piece of this. I think you took the SMART goals in there, right? Like
Yeah. And
that's
I
a
think
big
that's it. And the big thing with SMART goals is they've got to be specific, measurable. You can't just say, I want to get better. Like, you need to find a way to measure that to see if it's actually happened. And it's got to be realistic. Uh, like me having a 50-inch vertical leap at 45 years old, I don't think is the most realistic thing in the world. But if I'm being honest, I have a goal. I want to get, I want to jump again. I want to be able to dunk a basketball again. And I hope that's achievable. It might not be. I've got 2 ACL surgeries and a meniscus, and I'm an old man. But it's, what the heck? Might as well try it and see if you can do it. But you need it to
maybe
be.
those
What was that?
I was just gonna say maybe on those 9-foot rims. That's what I was gonna
Oh, I
say.
can definitely,
You-
do that. We have, as I mentioned before, I'm a teacher, and we have, I think they're probably 8.5-foot rims at recess, and I can, I can definitely still dunk on those, which gives me a little bit of street cred on the recess, on the court. Yeah. But anyway, so the last part about these SMART goals is that they have to be time bound. So you need an end date where you want to kind of check in. And it doesn't mean like, all right, if I didn't get it by this date, like I failed. That's not it at all. But you just want to be reflective and reassess often and see if you're heading in the right direction. I forget, I don't know if it was fitness one or one of the episodes we did that didn't get published. But having the mindset to just keep moving forward, getting 1% better each day, not like even if you get 0.5% better each day, as long as you're moving in the general direction you want to be headed over a long enough time span, you're going to get there. You just have to be willing and patient to put that time in. But I think it all comes back to understanding where you are and understanding where you want to get to with that growth mindset. And there was a clip that Ed Sheeran is, I don't know how many awards he's won and how many albums he's sold, but if you're going to talk top musical artists of today, he's definitely up there. And he was on the Jonathan Ross show back in 2014 talking about how people would tell him how lucky he is that he's so talented. And he's like, dude, no, it's hard work. So I'm going to do a little screen share again, because this is the clip. It's about, I don't know, a minute long, but it's worth it, to listen to. So I'm going to pull that up, and, there we go.
Basically, all I'm saying is when people say artists are born with talent, you're not. You have to really learn and really practice. This is me playing guitar and singing. I'm going to put it into my mic like this.
It takes a second to get into it, but listen to his voice. Oh shoot, I messed it. All right, there we go.
Oh.
That sounds awful. Listen to what he says though. Afterwards, give it a second, but
But you know what? You know what? I did practice.
After that, you practice.
I did. Yeah, no, I probably needed it.
he understands like Ed Sheeran, who's one of the best there is, did not sound the way he does now. It was hard work, it was practice, but he had a goal that he wanted to get better, and that's what he worked towards. So it's having that growth mindset as opposed to a fixed mindset. In the end, will make a huge, huge difference.
Yeah, gigantic, and that's a great example there too. But I think in other ones, like you know, and I'll take the biggest thing is that applies to any aspect of life. That can be that's not just fitness and health related. That's you know career related. That's relationship related, right? Like you can bring that aspect to every part of your life, right? To every aspect of your life, and that is kind of what your mindset is, right? Like that isn't it isn't a fixed thing, right? I think it's like, which is you know funny because we're going through growth and fixed, but I'm saying like your mind, and I said it earlier, your mind, your state of mind is more of a fluid, fluid thing that you need to be able to recognize and also maintain and put the work into the maintenance of it as well. So you brought up self-talk earlier, but I think that's one that is a major thing of how you talk to yourself in those in those intimate moments with yourself. That is projected on a larger scale when you interact with other people. So I think those are areas where your mindset, it starts internally, and I think it starts with how you talk to yourself and how you motivate yourself, and it's a big aspect of what we're talking about, and it's a big aspect of your overall well-being and your overall state of wellness.
Yeah, I think we talked, I forget what episode, maybe the first one, where we were talking about mindset, nutrition, fitness, and recovery, rest and recovery, your sleep, and which one was the most important. And I had asked you kind of off the cuff, and we both said it was mindset. And it's, if your mind isn't in the right place, all the other things are going to be tough. But they are all connected. And the thing is, when things are going well, it's easy. But things aren't always going to go well. Everybody's got times in life when it gets tough. And if when things are going well, you have the right mindset, your nutrition's in the right place, your fitness is in the right place, you're getting enough rest. When those days come, when something bad happens, you get sick or you lose your job or there's a huge struggle in your life, if you have the health set up, your nutrition, your fitness, your sleep, and you have that mindset already in place, you are much better equipped to deal with all that stuff than if you are, you're sleeping 4 or 5 hours a night, you're eating like garbage, you're not exercising, your mindset's already kind of tapped at that point in time. But if all those things are good and something hits you, like you can deal with it a lot better than you could. I mean, it's not going to be easy. You're going to have to battle through it, but you just have the tools in place to make that battle as easy as possible. Which I think is a big thing, because we all have things we want to improve upon. Again, I don't like the word flaws necessarily, but we definitely all have things we want to improve. So if you can always be
Imperfections, right?
Yeah. Yeah, imperfection is not, again, not a bad thing. Like we all have them. You see pictures of people and they're jacked, and I wish I could remember the name of the influencer, and they're like, this is how we look good. And like he was standing normal, and then he like adjusted his positioning just a little bit, and he turned from just looking, he looked good, he was in great shape. But then when he made the adjustments, he looked shredded. And it's just like people don't realize that we all have these flaws, we all have these imperfections that we are so critical of that nobody else even notices, if I'm being honest. But again, it's just something that we all have to work through, but it's something that you can work through if you're willing to look at it objectively.
Well, and I think speaking from experience or speaking for myself, like I don't think there's anybody that's a bigger critic about me than me, right? So I
Oh,
think that's
absolutely.
something that I think, like what you said, like you basically, some of these things, like you can be harder on yourself than anybody would ever be hard, as hard as they would be on you, right? So that's Um, I think the biggest thing is just making sure that you give yourself some grace, but also push yourself a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Motivate yourself a little bit, and try to find that sweet spot of like what works for you and what can what can improve and be better,
Yeah, and you're right with being your own worst critic. And anybody who's played an athletic game of any sort, like I will remember the plays I should have made that didn't, as opposed to the ones I did. And people are like, you had a great game, you did this, thing. I'm like, yeah, I missed the layup in the third quarter though. I shouldn't have done that. And that's what you focus on, and you fixate on that stuff, which is good. You want to make improvements. So, if you make a mistake in a certain area, you work on that so that you minimize the chance of making that mistake again. But you still got to give yourself some credit for the stuff that you're doing well, and that's really the mindset piece that we're trying to shift. So just to recap the whole mindset piece, it starts with some self-reflection and being self-aware, and you need to get that piece in. And if you're not willing to do that, you're not going to change anything. um, Everybody has difficulties and struggles and all that, but if all you're doing is looking at what everybody else is doing, you're never going to take time to look at what you need to do and the changes that you can make. So self-awareness is huge first.
And I think self-awareness is also ask somebody for some guidance or some help or what they think could be improved. Or I think that's the other piece, is like it doesn't have to be all on you. It doesn't have to just be you. You can use help in those and
Absolutely.
find ways to try to do that.
And there,
And I think
find
that's another
somebody
piece, is like,
who's, sorry, continue that. I was
no,
just
no,
going to
that's
say,
you go for it. Go for it.
I was going to say, find somebody who is where you want to be or on the path that you want to be, and ask them questions. Ask them for help. For chances are, if somebody's already gone through the journey, um, they obviously remember it. It was a big deal to them, and they're usually happy to help somebody else who's trying to go along the same path. So look at people who, maybe somebody who's lost weight and that's what you're trying to do, or maybe somebody who's had a knee surgery and you have to have one, and you want to recover the way they did, and talk to them about it. So like you said, exactly, ask for help. You can't do everything all alone, and there are people who have learned how to do it. So ask them. That's, I'm sure they asked for help to get where they are. They didn't do it alone. So it's having that self-awareness, and then that growth versus fixed mindset it's really important to shift that as much as you can. And then once you get through those first two, having setting goals, clear goals that you're going to reflect upon, that are attainable, the SMART goals, um, and understand it's going to take time. And there's a clip about Usain Bolt that he trained 4 years for 9 seconds. Hold on, let me see if I can play this thing.
This quote hit me in my chest. Usain Bolt said, "I trained 4 years to run 9 seconds."
The work is behind the scene. Competition is the easy part.
3 gold medals, 3 world records, the one and only Usain Bolt.
9.58! Smashing the world record! Unbelievable!
And I think what's good about that is most people see the end product. They're like, oh, that guy's wicked fast, but they don't see the 2-a-days or 3-a-days that he's put in for years, the focus on nutrition, the focus on rest and recovery, the amount of effort that goes in to just those, that end result. And that, is an extreme situation for an Olympic athlete, but that's anything. Somebody who's good at guitar, and you realize like, oh, I wish I could do that, but I'm not musically gifted. You could be, but you have to be willing to put in the hundreds and hundreds and thousands of hours, to get better at that.
And it's funny, I've got a 7-year-old, and I deal with this, and you see kids do this a lot, where if they're not immediately good at it, they either don't want to do it or don't like it, right? And I
Yeah.
think getting them to understand, and this is I've gone through this a lot with my son, of it takes effort, it takes work, and it you're not gonna you and honestly for him, it's like something like he loves baseball, right? And watching his progression of interest in baseball also correlate with ability, right? And
Good
he's not
point.
the
Good
best
point.
kid out there, right? But like it was something that as he got better with it, he got more interested in it, right? And he wanted to do it more. And I think it just kind of shows like especially on a developmental level, right? With kids and how kids develop and how we develop as humans, right? I think that it's huge to try to get people to understand as early as you can that this is how you are successful is you put in hard work day after day and toward a goal, setting goals along the way, and that's how you get where you want to be. It's not that like you said, people see that 1 9 second run and they're like, oh, he's so lucky, right? Or like he's so
Yeah.
lucky to be able to do that. And it's like that man sacrificed his life. He's obsessed. He is borderline crazy about that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like and that's why. And you look at professional athletes; they're the same way. Those people live, breathe, sleep, whatever their event or sport is. That's what they do, and it's like
Yeah.
part of who they are, right? And I
There
think
was a
that's
story about
someone.
Kobe where I somebody asked him in an interview, like, when did you realize this is what you wanted to do? And he goes, I was 13 years old and I wanted to be the best player in the world. And he's like, if anything else happens that wasn't on that path, I didn't have time for it. And there'd be stories about other NBA players going out and partying and all that stuff. And I think it was Allen Iverson. I forget if it was like Olympic something or other or whatever. He landed in LA and Kobe went to pick him up. And Allen's like, hey, we're going out to the club. You want to come? He was like, no, I'm going to the gym. It was like 11 o'clock at night. But that was Kobe's mindset. And that's why he's arguably one of the best. I mean, most people say Jordan won, but give me Kobe at 2 over LeBron. Not that LeBron doesn't have a good work ethic, but you need to have that mentality and that focus to get to that level. And obviously those are extreme cases, him and Usain and these top tier athletes, but they have a goal.
But those are things, yeah, those values can be carried over. You don't have to be obsessive like that, but those same values can be carried over to any aspect in your life, right? And that's where it's, and I think that it goes back to the awareness, right, of that there is a problem or there is something that needs to be a behavior that needs to be changed, and that is the root of this is the awareness. You know what I mean? And I think being able to identify it and know that you need to make a change is the key to successfully changing your behavior.
Yeah. And again, not plugging the website too much, healthmovement.us, but if you have goals and things that you want to talk through, we can put them up on the site too. If people want to have it out there, they should be written somewhere. You don't have to make it super public. You can just write it down, but you need to put pen to paper with these goals. If you want to put them up, we can talk about them. And when you get there, that would be awesome to be able to highlight people who have accomplished whatever goals that they have. And I know this is a health and fitness podcast, health and fitness, health and wellness, but it can really be anywhere. It's that mindset. Like you said, it doesn't just have to be there. And once you can do it in one place and you learn how to do it, the skill is repeatable in any aspect of your life. So that is definitely huge. And it's also persistence on it, because it's not going to go well all the time. And I just highlighted a couple people that we're not going to talk about long, but somebody like Stephen King was a famous author, rejected 30 times by publishers for his first book, Carrie, and he actually threw the manuscript in the trash, and he was done. And his wife pulled it out and was like, try one more. Just go try one more. And it was that 31st that was the one more that got him published. And now I have 80 plus books. I forget how many he has. published, but J.K. Rowling went the same sort of thing, were rejected a bunch of times. Jordan getting cut from the varsity team in high school. Bethany Hamilton, even professional surfer, got her arm bit off by a shark, and a month or two later, she's back out surfing again because she's got that mindset and she has those goals, those things she wants to achieve. So, all right, I think we should probably move off from this topic and jump into. We have a couple listener questions here. Again, if you have any you want answered, hop over on the website, put them in. There's a tab for that. The first one, this is from Nathan from Florida, and it's not a mindset focused question, but it's how do beginners handle recovery days? He says he feels like a lot of people stop after the first leg day. And I'm sure you've gone through a heck of a leg day before and know what he's talking about.
Yeah, and I mean, and I also deal with the recovery aspect, the injury and recovery aspect a lot too. So I think the biggest thing is less is more to start, I think. So the big thing is like you don't have to be a world beater on your first leg day after the gym, where you're going to be walking around sore and you can't go up and down stairs for 3 days, right? So I think that's a big piece, especially for the beginners. I think they don't really realize the amount of what they're doing, or like the extent of the deconditioned nature that their body is in, and that it's going to take some time to build up that conditioning. And if you go 0 to 100, it's going to you're going to be sore as hell for a week.
Yeah.
And B, you're increasing your likelihood of injuring yourself, right? So I think those are the biggest thing I would say for beginners as far as recovery days. And this is the big thing, is like my whole thing for recovery is people say like rest day, right? And they just don't do anything, right?
Yeah.
And for me, it's more of an active recovery type of situation, right? You need to actively be working on your recovery to feel as best as you can. So for me, that's controlling the controllables, right? What's your hydration? What's your nutrition? How much are you foam rolling? How much are you doing your own soft tissue work? And then what are you getting for sleep, right? Those are our big four that we talked about in the first couple episodes.
Yeah.
You start to control those and you start to work on those, and your recovery will improve, right? And your goal is to be maybe a little sore for a day, maybe two. And then after that, you want to be, you want it to start to dissipate. And the biggest thing is, how do you manage your recovery, or how do you manage your soreness, right? And what do you do? Do you do anything in particular, or do you have any kind of specific routines?
What I like to do, and I know for me, and we talked about it before, my Achilles are brutal. So I hit that first in terms of I'll use a lacrosse ball and roll it out, and the Theragun and hit it. But I've noticed for beginners, and it's not just beginners, it's people who used to exercise and then took time off for whatever reason and then are getting back into it. If there's somebody, they squat 225 and then they take 6 months off and they go back and try to do the exact same weight, like that's not going to go well for you. I would recommend even just starting with form, with almost no weight at all or nothing, and just do that for a week or two so that your body's used to the movements and you can get the movements done properly, and then start adding some resistance on there. Because like we said, you're not going to get where you want to go in 2 weeks. And this isn't a 2-week plan. This is a lifelong goal, is to stay fit and in shape. So be willing to take 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and just make sure your form is good and you work your way back into it. I think that would definitely prevent a lot of people from stopping. But again, if you've never done it before, you need help learning how to do it. And there are plenty of resources out there. But don't just go in and start copying what everybody else is doing at the gym, because they've been doing it for a while. So That was Nathan from Florida. Hopefully that helped you out. And our next question is our first international question, and this is from Yeva from England. And she asked, I was recently diagnosed with gluten intolerance and I'm struggling with eating out, which is affecting my social life. Any suggestions on how to order at a restaurant which is not gluten-free friendly? This is kind of a tough one, but I think it I think it can go with any sort of food allergy. It doesn't have to be a gluten intolerance, but I know in the United States, a lot of restaurants now are very accommodating in terms of allergies and things like that. And I kind of went back and forth with Eva a little bit just to get an idea of what she was facing. And it seems like in some countries they don't have this, but my recommendation is it seems like everybody's got a menu or something online, and if you know where you're going, it takes a little extra effort, but check through the menu, and if you see something you think might work, give them a call and let them know ahead of time, like, hey, I got this allergy or this intolerance, and I'd like to come out there with my friends. I got a party of 12 people. How can you help me out? Can you make this work? And it does take a little extra time. But I mean, if you want to go socialize and that's important and you want to go out with your friends or family or whatever it happens to be, I think those steps are going to make the experience so much better. So going out there, you already know you've had the conversation. You're not worrying about it going into the situation. So
Yeah, it's tough. Those the intolerance allergy kind of situations can be really difficult. You know, my wife said one of her best friends has a dairy allergy, like a pretty significant dairy allergy. And that's the kind of thing where there's dairy in a lot of things that it goes unnoticed or unknown, right? So those are things where she has to be very mindful of what she's ordering when she goes to places, like in being specific about what her intolerance is and how can you work around that with your waiter or the wait staff or the chef or whoever's cooking at the restaurant that you're at. It just has to be. It's very much about communication. I think if you communicate, that is the biggest thing. Is you need to. They don't know what they don't know, and you need to be able to communicate what your needs are for you. And you should be able to find something that works within your diet.
Yeah, no, the communication piece is huge. So, all right, I did want to say thank you to everybody that downloaded the first episodes. Honestly, it was well received, and we were in something like 30 cities and in 4 different countries. Like it was pretty cool to see. And honestly, we appreciate every single person that took the time to listen to it and download it, and feedback we've gotten from family and friends. So we really do appreciate everything. If you have certain things you'd like us to discuss on a show or anything like that, reach out to us, let us know. Healthmovement.us is the website. You can email us at coach@healthmovement.us. And we're here to help out as much as we can, and we appreciate the heck out of all you guys and girls. So thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate you. Appreciate you, Dad.